Welcome into Steelers Talk. I am your host, Jack Sperry, and today we've got a loaded show of news and rumors surrounding the Pittsburgh Steelers to cover today. First up, we're going to be breaking down the latest surrounding Brandon Aiyuk, where there is a report that a trade for him between the Steelers and 49ers is apparently, quote-unquote, dead at this point in time. I'll break that down here in just a little bit. Also, I'll go over the complete list of top 30 draft visits for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. Going to let you know all the players the Steelers are targeting at the top of this year's NFL draft class. And then also the Athletics' Dane Brugler put out his beast of a 7-round mock draft. Every single pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're going to be breaking that down at the end of today's show, so make sure you stick around. But before we get into today's news and rumors action, get us started here by clicking that thumbs up icon if you are as pumped for the NFL draft as I am, and we are here at Steelers Talk. We're just over a week away. It's kind of crazy how fast draft season always goes, but at the end of the day, it's super rewarding, and I can't wait to celebrate a new class of Steelers being brought in with all of you guys over this next week or so. So now let's start with our top story today, which is that Rapoport reports that the 49ers are not entertaining calls for all-pro wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk, who, of course, has shown some dissatisfaction with his contract situation this offseason. He's been linked to the Pittsburgh Steelers a number of times so far this offseason, but it looks like it probably won't be going down. Here's what Rapoport had to say about a potential Aiyuk deal. There has been no trade request. Obviously, there has been some teams though, who know that all is not well and know that he wants a contract extension. Some receiver-needy teams have inquired over the last several months to see if he could be available. To my knowledge, the 49ers have not entertained any of those talks. All right, so listen, man, if I were the 49ers, I wouldn't want to give up Brandon Aiyuk either. He is an all-pro caliber wide receiver. He was their number one receiving weapon last year for Brock Purdy, who, of course, was the leading candidate to be MVP at one point during the 2024 season. Aiyuk is an incredible route runner. He is a great run blocker. He fits their system so well. And if I'm Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, I am not wanting to trade Brandon Aiyuk either, and I want to get an extension done, which is exactly what I think is going to happen. They did this whole song and dance with George Kittle and Deebo Samuel in the past, and even Nick Bosa, and all of those guys got their deals done. The salary cap in the National Football League is definitely a fickle thing, so they're going to be working through this here. Ryan Williams, Aiyuk's agent, and the 49ers are going to be working closely to try and get a deal done, and at the end of the day, I think that Aiyuk wants to stay in a place like the 49ers, that's ready to win now, that's ready to win Super Bowls. I mean, they were in the big game just last year, and I think Aiyuk probably wants to be in San Francisco, but he wants to get compensated like the all-pro wide receiver that he is. Now, predict it for me down there in the comments section. Will Brandon Aiyuk be on the 49ers next season? I certainly think he will be, but let me know what you guys are thinking down there in the comments section by giving me a yes or no for today's pinned comment. In just a second, we're going to be talking about our sponsor, Prize Picks here. So when I'm talking about Prize Picks, just go down there in the comment section, find that pinned comment at the top of the comment section, and give me a yes or a no. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100 today. Prize Picks has specials for new and returning users alike for the start of the MLB season when you head on over to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today. Football season's been over for a while, folks, but the action on the diamond is just heating up. Get in on the excitement with our friends at Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your basketball or baseball knowledge into serious cash. That is, if you know ball. Here is my projections for tonight's MLB action. I'm going to take the more on Randy Arozarena's RBIs. I'm going to take the more on Jose Ramirez total bases, and I'll take the more on Mike Trout home run. So if you know ball, you want to make some money from the comfort of your couch while you watch your favorite MLB team play tonight, all you got to do is go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks is super easy to play, guys. All you have to do is pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and then watch the winnings roll in. If you know ball, you can certainly win some money with Prize Picks today when you go to prizepicks.com/CLNS or download the Prize Picks app today and use our code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. You can pick more or you can pick less. It's that easy with our friends at Prize Picks. So now let's get into the confirmed, kind of finalized list of top 30 visits pre-draft for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because the Steelers have been bringing in a bunch of these prospects at a bunch of different positions, and we've been trying to wait here on the channel until we had a finalized list to show it, because Wednesday today is the last day that they can visit. They finalized their list today. So here is the list. And yes, before you guys say something in the chat, yes, some of these guys are not official top 30 visits. They are local visits. So just keep that in mind. So here are the offensive tackles that they've brought in. Troy Fontenot from Washington, Amarius Mims from Georgia, Talise Fuwanga from Oregon State. Probably the top 3 guys that you need to be keeping your eye on when it comes to offensive tackles in round 1. Tyler Guyton from Oklahoma is another top guy that people really like around the league as well. Blake Fisher from Notre Dame. Matt Goncaves from Pittsburgh is a local visit. Travis Glover from Georgia State, kind of a late-round guy. And then Travis Clayton, somebody that comes from the UK, got a visit with the Pittsburgh Steelers earlier this week. So when it comes to the offensive tackle position, guys, I would say expect one to be taken within the first 2 rounds. I don't know if it's going to be in the first pick or if it's going to be with the second pick, but just based on their behavior here and who they're bringing in and who they've shown interest in, it definitely seems like round 1 is kind of their plan A in terms of taking an offensive tackle. And at the very least, they're going to get something done in round 2. Then at the interior of the offensive line, we know how big center is a need for this football team, and they've definitely been talking with some of the top guys in this class. Jackson Powers-Johnson, Graham Barton are kind of considered the 2 top guys at the center position in this class. Zach Frazier came in on a local visit. Same thing with Hunter Norzad out of Penn State. And then Stephen Jones, a guard prospect out of Oregon. So when it comes to center, guys, I think that this is going to be a pick that happens at some point by round 3. All right, I don't know if it'll be Graham Barton at number 20. He's been rumored to the Steelers at 20 a lot recently. I don't know if it's going to be in the second round with a guy like Jackson Powers-Johnson or somebody else, Cedric Van Pran maybe, or if it's going to be like a Hunter Norzad in round 3. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know this is a major need, and the Steelers need to get this done by the end of day 2. Then we look at the wide receivers here, and lots of big names that you're looking at here, and guys that are probably going to be available on day 2 or early day 3. So Adonai Mitchell out of Texas, Coops guy, is expected to be a first-round pick. So if he falls to round 2, maybe they make a move to trade up for Mitchell, or potentially even, who knows, take him at number 20. Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. There's getting a little bit of first-round buzz now, but I think he's probably going to be a round 2 guy. Xavier Legette out of South Carolina, big body, fast mover, really good player in my opinion. Reminds me of A.J. Brown. I think he's probably going to be a round 1 guy, but I think the Steelers are hoping he falls to round 2. Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky reminds a lot of people of Deebo Samuel and Rashee Rice with his ability to run with the football in space. And then Taj Washington and Luke McCaffrey are the 2 guys, kind of smaller receivers, speed type guys that they are looking at probably on day 3 of the draft. Now, I do think that wide receiver will probably be a pick for them by day 2. So that's the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. I just think that with the glaring need at wide receiver 2 right now, you have to be able to take one of the top guys in this class. Now, is it going to be round 1? I'm really not too sure on that front, because you have George Pickens, you have a legit number 1 guy, and you have other very important needs along the offensive line. So I really think the first round pick is going to be an offensive lineman. But watch out for the Steelers to take a big-time wide receiver at a value in round 2, somebody like a Roman Wilson, or I don't know if Legette makes it there, or Pearsall. Look for the Steelers to potentially look for a wide receiver 2 right there in round 2. So let's get into cornerbacks here, where they've talked with a lot of guys. 8 cornerbacks have come in for visits here. Cooper DeJean out of Iowa, Nate Wiggins out of Clemson are the 2 first-round guys that they've brought in for visits. No Terrion Arnold, so that's definitely an interesting one there. Andrew Phillips out of Kentucky is somebody that's climbing up draft boards right now. I think he'll probably be early round 3, maybe round 2 type of guy. Max Melton out of Rutgers, Daquan Hardy out of Penn State got a local visit. Same thing with MJ Devonshire, and then Beanie Bishop from West Virginia as well. So lots of variety when it comes to the corners here, but I do think that they're probably going to try to get this done within the first 2 days of the draft, so within the first 3 rounds. But I don't think that they're necessarily tethered to that. I think that they would be okay with taking a corner probably on day 3. But personally, guys, I really hope they can get a corner by the end of day 2. I think they need somebody that can come in and play at least a rotational role right away. And I'm just not sure the quality of corner you're going to get past day 2 of the NFL draft. Then we look at the defensive interior guys, somebody to come in. Larry Ogunjobi's a free agent next offseason. Cameron Hayward, we don't know if he's going to be back. Of course, he's starting to get up there in age. So looking for an interior defensive lineman to kind of take the reins alongside Keanu Benton for the next 10 years could be on the Steelers' radar. They talked with Darius Robinson out of Mizzou. Bigger guy, he's listed as a defensive end, but he could play 5 technique in this system. Braden Fisk out of Florida State. Mason Smith out of LSU. Logan Lee out of Iowa. Christian Boyd out of UNI. And then Jaden Crumity out of Mississippi State are the 6 guys they brought in for visits. And I do think defensive tackle will probably be day 3, probably in round 4. All right, so you look at all the guys that they're looking at. A lot of them are being ranked in like the 4th round kind of area. Guys like Mason Smith and Logan Lee and all these different guys that are kind of seen as mid-level defensive tackle prospects. I would say watch out for the Steelers to take a defensive tackle in round 4. Then we get to the inside linebackers, Peyton Wilson out of NC State and Junior Colson out of Michigan. These 2 are considered potentially the top 2 inside linebackers in the class, alongside Edgerrin Cooper, of course, as well. But I really like both of these players, extremely athletic. They know their positions extremely well. Now, I don't think that the Steelers are necessarily looking for an inside linebacker early in the draft. I think if Wilson or Colson falls to them in round 3, they may consider it. But I think probably both of them will be gone by the time they pick in round 3. And I think they'll probably end up taking an inside linebacker on day 3 in rounds 4 through 7 to kind of fill out the rest of the inside linebacker room. Okay, so now let's shift from the draft targets here to a mock draft from The Athletic's Dane Brugler. If you don't know Brugler's work with The Athletic, he's one of the most comprehensive and respectable scouting personalities out there in the NFL draft space. I really recommend his stuff. Now let's get into his mock draft here. 7 rounds for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then first round, he's going to have them take Grant Barton out of Duke. Now, if you take Barton in round 1, I know that he's got versatility, and that's going to be seen in a very high regard by these NFL teams. But if you're getting him in round 1, you're getting him to play center right away, plain and simply. He's not going to be playing tackle. He's not going to be playing guard. Maybe you move him there if there's injuries, but if you draft him in round 1, he's going to be your starting center. I'll give that one a B. And then we get to round 2, and I really like this pick of Roman Wilson, Michigan wide receiver. Kind of a smaller guy, but he does a lot of things real well. Reliable hands. He's a dog as a run blocker. Really tough over the middle of the field. He's got great long speed at 4.39. So he can beat you deep. So I think that this guy fits perfectly with what the Steelers want to do. And in round 2, I think it's a good value. I'll give this an A. Then in round 3, Brugler has Blake Fisher out of Notre Dame falling all the way to round 3 to the Steelers. And I'm going to give this an A+. Because I'd be okay with taking Fisher in round 2. I think that he's ready to play right away as a starting right tackle in the National Football League. So if you get these first 3 picks here, you get Barton to be your starting center, Roman Wilson to be your number 2 wide receiver, and then Blake Fisher to be your starting right tackle, move Broderick Jones back over to the left side. I think this is about as good of a 3-pick sequence as you can have if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then we get into also round 3. Braylon Trice, edge rusher, adding to the edge rusher ranks here. In round 3, pick number 98, Trice, super productive there with Washington, an incredibly violent edge rusher that's going to be coming in right away. He's not the best run defender, but that's okay because he's going to be a rotational guy to start his career with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, yeah, you have TJ Watt, you have Alex Highsmith, and Nick Herbig showed a lot of really good things last year. So is edge really a big need? I would argue no. So even though I like the player, I think he would do well here in Pittsburgh, I think there's other needs that you could be addressing, so I'll give this a C+. Then we get to round 4, and Brugler has the Steelers taking Jarvis Brownlee Jr., corner out of Louisville, and I think he's a fit. He's got long arms, super physical. He fits the mold of what Mike Tomlin wants at the position. But I think there's probably better values, and I probably would have taken a corner at pick number 98 instead of waiting all the way to 119 and kind of getting the guy in Brownlee who has some warts on his film, and I'm not sure if he's going to be able to play right away, which is what I think the Steelers need. So even though I like the player, I think eventually he might work, he's not exactly what the Steelers are looking for, so I'll give it a B. Then in round 6 here, pick number 178, he has Oladipo, the safety out of Oregon State. Now, he's got a kind of a weird first name, so I don't want to butcher it for you guys, but I'll give this a C because Oladipo is fine. I don't necessarily see him as an impact player in the league at any point during his career, but we know how much the Steelers like to use that 3-safety package, so Oladipo might be a pretty decent pick here. So in round 6, I'll give this a C. And then with the final pick, he has McKinley Jackson, the defensive tackle, who did not really test all that well during this process. He kind of started as like maybe a 4th-round type prospect, and he's really fallen down draft boards with the way his workouts have panned out, really not showing what you're looking for in terms of these NFL thresholds. I'm not sure if Jackson's really a Steelers guy because the Steelers are more traitsy. They want guys that test well, all these different things. So I'm not sure if this is something that will actually happen, but I think his tape is pretty good. And if you're getting a guy like that in round 6, I'll give this a B-. The overall grade that I'll give Brugler here, it's pretty darn good, especially with those first 3 picks. I think he knocked those 3 out of the park. So overall, I'd be happy with this draft haul if this actually ends up happening for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think he might have left a little bit on the bone there in round 3 at the end, and then also in round 4. Plus, you probably could have gotten some better impact players towards the end. So I'll give it a B+. It was definitely fine, but let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. A, B, C, D, or F. What do you feel about this 7-round mock draft from Dane Brugler? So now a big shout out to Jonathan Goshorn here, who had the idea for today's show. He was a winner from our Steelers Talk Live show last week. He put in the most in Super Chat, so we got to pick the topics of today's show. And he wanted me to share his mock draft with you guys here on the show. So here it is. Amarius Mims in round 1. Graham Barton falling all the way to round 2. All right, so if that happens, that would be absolutely fantastic. Braden Fisk, a defensive tackle in round 3. Jermaine Burton, also in round 3, a wide receiver from Bama. Braylon Allen, a running back in round 4. All right, I can't say I've seen too many mocks for the Steelers with running backs, but that's an interesting twist there. Andrew Phillips in round 6, I think because he's climbing up draft boards right now, I really don't think Phillips is going to be there in round 6, and I really don't think Malik Washington, who is also climbing up draft boards, is going to be there. But hey, man, if they could pull this off, this would be the best draft in the history of the National Football League, in my opinion, man. I love all these players on this list, man. So grade Jonathan's mock for me down there in the comments section, A, B, C, D, or F. Love the players on this mock. Not sure if you're going to be able to get all of them, though. So if you want some more additional Steelers content, NFL draft content from me on social media every single day, you can find me at Jack_Sperry and at SpareDog.football on Instagram. Big shout out to Jonathan Goshorn again for today's show. And make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already for more Steelers news and rumors content here on YouTube, 100% free every single day.